Welcome back, everybody, to a Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I'd like to introduce Dr. April Brown. She's an intimacy expert, and she loves talking about improving relationships through intimacy. She's a licensed mental health Christian counselor, board-certified telemental health provider, national certified counselor, Florida certified sex therapist, and a qualified clinical supervisor. She holds a bachelor degree in business, master's and specialist degree in counseling and human systems, and a doctoral degree in counseling psychology, and has been in the field since 1997. Welcome to a Little Less Fear podcast, Dr. April Brown. Great to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Yes.
It's my pleasure. So, hey, as we all know, this is a motivational podcast. And before we get into your expertise, I'd like to know about your journey. What brought you to where you currently are at today?
I would say the main thing that brought me to where I am today is God and my higher power. Yes. So way back in the 90s when I was finishing school, I was actually in business and I worked as a CPA doing corporate CPA, same thing every month. And I was just getting so stressed out and overwhelmed. And I felt like God was telling me that it's time to leave the job. And I was like, what? Sit home and do nothing? I was also pregnant at the time. So I did sit home for about 4 months. But in that process, God revealed to me about counseling.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And I said, God, I don't really like people. I'm pretty shy. I'm good with numbers. I don't understand where this is going. My grandmother was actually a high school counselor, one of the first high school counselors, Black high school counselors in South Carolina. So I said, okay, God, because he kept on me, I'll apply to one school. If I get in, I got it. And so, yeah. And so when I went there, I just started off, of course, doing the same thing my grandmother did, was school counseling, picked up mental health on the way. And then, you know, how God just sometimes works. He kind of pushes you. And to go fast forward to in the 2000s, at some point, God also spoke to me about being a sex therapist. And I was like, God.
How did he speak to you about that? Was it through an image? Was it through a vision?
That time is really like, I don't know, it's for you sometimes, just when you're taking a shower, you know, and you're in those quiet moments by yourself. Yes. Yeah. These thoughts come in your head. And I'm like, God, are you really talking about sex? And I'm a Christian counselor. Actually, my background's Catholic. How is this really going to work? April, trust me, trust me, trust me. So I did become a certified sex therapist, which I enjoy. And in that, getting that certification, the topic of intimacy started to really came into me. In fact, I have a podcast called Bringing Intimacy Back.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
I'm bringing intimacy back.
Yes. And so when that was started to unfold, then I was like, oh, I understand, God. It's more than just the sex that you want me to talk about. Intimacy is all three levels. You know, intimacy with your higher power, intimacy with yourself, and intimacy, you know, with others, and especially if you put it in the bedroom, that's sexual intimacy. And I don't know how many people have really invited their higher power in the bedroom.
Sure there's a big missing component there, and that's why we're in alignment, and that's why we're talking about it.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why you're on the mission doing what God's work. And this is part of it.
Yes. Because he created, when I was like, you really want me to do sex? He's like, April, I created sex. So come on.
Whoa, I love that. I love that.
So shy to talk.
True. Wow.
Yeah. And then, you know, we were taught that sex was real. Well, we were taught, maybe I was only taught, but many people were taught that sex is only to make babies or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But really, if that was so, we'd be popping out a baby all the time. And really, if you look biblically, it's not just to have babies. It's also about pleasure.
Yes. So, Dr. Brown, why do so many people have reservations about pleasure?
For a variety of reasons. Sometimes on just an individual level, we feel like we have to work all the time and not have any pleasure, not have any downtime. And I don't know if people have realized, and I say this all the time, that Jesus did not preach the whole time. There was times he took off for himself. You know what I'm saying? Because he had human body and we have a human. Yes. Yes. So it is okay for us to experience pleasure. Now, some of us who have socially disadvantaged or growing up in, different cultures or whatever, all we were taught about is to grind, 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 because that's all we saw our parents do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To put the basic necessities, or I don't know, just that thing of slavery in our head. Yeah. So we just don't appreciate pleasure. We feel like we don't deserve it.
Yeah.
And we do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Pleasure is one of those things that we do deserve.
Right.
It's part, we have endorphins in our head that help produce pleasure. And you can produce pleasure, not only, you can produce pleasure in healthy ways.
And that's so true. And I was even reading online not so long ago that even intimacy, sexual pleasure, it helps you heal. Like it helps your cells and your neurons heal. And I was
Right.
like, what in the world? I never would have thought of that. I just thought pleasure was pleasure, but on a cellular level, it's healthy, like inside and outside.
Yes, when your body is tense. I actually went to the dentist today. Just tell me, relax, relax. It won't hurt as much. It's true. When your body is so tense, it like squeezes like this. And of course, it's not going to heal
So
versus
true.
when you're relaxed.
Right.
And when you're truly intimate, that means that you are truly in the time zone of the present moment. Your mind, body, spirit is all aligned. You're not thinking
I
about
love
the
that.
past. You're not worrying about the what ifs of the future. You're truly, truly present. And going back to the dentist thing, I wasn't truly present.
Right. Well, it's super hard to be present at the dentist.
The sounds were like, but
Yeah.
when
Oh,
you're
yeah.
truly present, that's when you're truly intimate.
Right.
Yeah.
Dr. Brown, does one have to? I have so many questions. So first of all, I think it's fascinating that God told you that He created sex, and second of all, that's really amazing of you that you have this connection with God. Because for me, it took me almost 40 years to have like a clear connection with the highest source, and I couldn't even say God before because I had so much reservations before. But now I know God is the all one encompassing. But prior to this, it's like, how did you trust that it was the word of God telling you this? How did you trust it?
I've been blessed that I've had a family that I see how they work. My parents, if God tells them to do something, they move and go. And that was always been, so that's one aspect. But also, like I said, I kind of grew up Catholic. Well, I did grow up Catholic, wasn't kind of, but
So
I did grow up.
I grew up Catholic.
However, I have studied a lot of different religions, and I've been out in nature. And I realized that most of the religions have the same thing. They're saying the same thing, love your higher power above all. And and love your neighbors. So when you're outside, when you're in a church, when you're just in that silent moment, and you open yourself up to hear the inner spirit talking to you.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can trust it because it knows much more than you do.
Oh, yeah.
And why not listen to that?
Right.
Right. But it's being able to distinguish between that, your negative thoughts, because we all have negative thoughts. I mean, that's how the world is. And what other people put in our ear.
Right.
Yeah.
And so once somebody can actually distinguish their negative thoughts, because that's not God and that's not higher source. So once you actually start getting messages such as you were receiving, you knew, okay, this is not my ego. These are not negative thoughts. These are clear messages. So there's no reason for me to deny or even say what, and just basically accept what's coming in and follow that mission.
Right. But it's not that easy. I'm not going to say that. I mean, tells you something. I'm like, oh, yes, God. Yes, this is what I'm going to do.
Right. Right. And I would think that it would be exceptionally difficult, especially in this topic with like sex and intimacy. Like, God, are you for real? Are you really telling me this? Like, okay. Yes. So at what point did you actually start stepping into this mission of yours?
I basically started the whole intimacy in 2017.
In 2017?
Yes, with the podcast. the certification and all the intimacy things that I've been developing. Yes, yeah.
And while you were in the middle of developing all of this and getting yourself into alignment, was there ever, I mean, I can imagine at some point you felt a little lost. Like, is this the right direction? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And then I'm assuming, I'm feeling that at some point it just all kind of just felt real, and you just kind of started building, and things became more expansive for you, and you started becoming more inquisitive.
Yes, yeah, because as you know, when God tells you something, but you have to do it baby step.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
listening to that inner voice and then trusting that first baby step.
Yeah, that's
You know what I'm saying?
part.
So yeah, so even signing up to get certified, that was just a baby step. I had no idea where all this other stuff would be leading to. Learning how to just say yes. And then being okay. And I know it's scary because at the same time, thinking 2017, it was also 2016, I stopped working full time. So when he told me to go do another certification, and I'm like, oh my gosh, God, you told me this Christian counseling, now you're over here, and now this is supposed to be my only income. Yeah, how is it all gonna work? Because you told me to quit my real full-time job. Yeah, all these things. Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful, Dr. Brown.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and when you trust, it's that peace.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And in the end, I feel like when I do, pass away or whatever, I'm going to be able to say, hey, I did my best.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, and I see it and I feel it and I see your passion. Thanks so much for following your passions. We obviously need you to light the way. So so tell us about lighting the way with intimacy. So what has it been like for you with this topic specifically, especially with like the world evolving, with like transgenders coming out and people who are intersex, and the divorce rates going up? I mean, how have you like evolved yourself into this ever evolving, fast paced, changing human evolution?
Okay, so besides podcasts and talking about the intimacy, what happened, I think maybe in 2020, God spoke to me again here, about providing intimate experiences for couples.
You mean
so
what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I have a business called Vacation Counseling, which is dealing with couples retreats. And
I like that.
Yeah. And we do group retreats, but our main focus though, is one couple at a time.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Yeah, so me and a few therapists will go in a vacation rental with a couple, and we provide a full-blown intimacy experience. And when I'm talking about intimacy, so I know I just talked about self, spirit, and partner intimacy, but there's other forms of partner intimacy besides sex.
Right, which is excellent. That was actually going to be my next question, if we could talk about the different types of intimacy, and I think you're about to dive into that. So let's dive in.
Yes, of course, it's that communication. How do you speak to one another? And sometimes that's one of the first, well, that is the first one that I usually tackle, is what comes out of your mouth, that communication.
Communication is a type of intimacy.
Yeah, communication. And then also in that communication is also your ability to hear.
Okay.
Because sometimes that really, but then there's other forms of intimacy, such as conflict and intimacy, forgiveness, intimacy. In vacation counseling, we do a lot of activities intimacy, help couples create activities, being creative intimacy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, aesthetic, going out and looking at the beach, or being in a botanical garden and doing the aesthetic. Enjoying that moment together. Of course, there's also another way of intimacy is service. As a couple, when they go, and whether they're, I know people would say it's not all that romantic, help out in the soup kitchen or whatever the case may be, that service intimacy.
Like volunteering together, doing things like that.
Volunteering together. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
Yes. So there's so much more different types of intimacy. but that what it really means, it's being fully present
Oh, I love
with
that.
your
So
partner.
I got to repeat this. So what intimacy really means in all these different aspects is being fully present at that moment.
Right.
Right.
Not sometimes in communications, or when I have a couple together, they're yelling and screaming, or maybe someone's saying something, they're triggered and they're thinking about their, well, they don't know they're thinking about it, childhood trauma, whatever the case may be,
Sure.
you know, thing, but they're
Mhm.
not fully present.
So true.
Yeah. And then when you talk about sexual intimacy, and I help couples do a lot of sensei focus, which I'm not sure if you've heard about
Yes.
sensei. Yeah.
But let's talk about it, because I'm certain our listeners wouldn't know what this is.
So sensei focus, it's really slowing down. One form of intimacy I didn't really talk about was physical touch,
Hmm.
but it's really slowing down the physical touch between partners. So many times when we are fooling around or engaging in sex, it's so fast. It's like boom, boom, bang. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I help couples realize that true intimacy should be like a playground
Hmm.
where you guys are going there and you're just playing. Okay. And
Yeah.
when I don't know if you remember when you were a child, you were playing, you were fully there. You
Oh yeah.
weren't worried
Fully present.
about what. Yes. Yeah. And beautiful kitty cat.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
So, but yeah, when you do sensei focus, you have one person that is completely naked in some aspect, and then your partner is slowly touching you. Like you spend a lot of time, let's say we just did the head, you spend a good 30 minutes in the head with different type of touches.
You mean like
Soft,
feathers and
hard touch, yeah, like
or
this,
hands?
up, you know, like this, and
Oh
your
wow.
partner is laying there and saying, this feels good, this feels ticklish, this feels that. It's really good to do that because sometimes, well, number one, our body keeps score. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
Yes,
but
I have it.
yeah, our body remembers everything. But
Right.
when you slow it down like that, you are truly present. And if something happens, like you touch a left ear and it's like brings you to a doggone memory, we can catch it there. And
Mhm.
that's something the partner, well, maybe I'll never touch it again, or maybe we'll make new memories on there. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Put some
right.
strawberries or whatever on there. Yeah. The point is to really slow it down and to communicate. One of the most
Communicate like this feels good, this doesn't feel good, or that tickles too much, or
yes,
Mhm.
and it helped build one of the most important intimacy that I really need to talk about is that emotional intimacy. And
Okay.
yeah, I got to
Oh yeah.
emotional intimacy is critical.
Oh wow. Yeah. How do
Okay.
you define this emotional intimacy?
Okay, emotional intimacy is being able to share your feelings with your partner and feel that your partner understands
Mhm.
or question, but can validate those feelings. And the feelings go back and forth.
You
Okay.
mean like and you don't you mean feeling emotional feelings, not sexual feelings.
Sexual feelings, but also emotional feelings. There's
Okay.
so many couples who cannot say, I feel disappointed, or I feel sad, or I feel elated, or I feel X, Y, or Z. You know what I'm saying? Without them feeling judged.
Okay. So any type of feeling, whether it's happy, sad, angry, just being able to share your emotions, being able to be expressive and knowing that
Yes,
your partner holds that space for you.
right. In this world today, many heterosexual men sometimes struggle with those feelings,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, because for them, and for some people who just like physical aspects, they they look at their eyes and they look at what they see, and that's what gets them sexually
Right.
aroused.
Yeah.
For others, for some women, it's that emotional piece. You
Right.
know,
True.
if you're really there for me, yeah,
So
can we?
exactly, yeah, like you can connect with the female,
Yeah,
or not female necessarily, but if somebody
right,
that has the emotional intelligence, I guess, is that the right way to
right.
say it?
Yes, emotional
They get
intelligence.
turned
Yeah,
on by their partner understanding them and holding that space for them. That's actually
exactly.
not at that moment, but it starts to the body starts to keep the score even emotionally.
Yes, yes, yes. And you also mentioned intellectual. So there's an intellectual intimacy that goes on in the mind. You
And
know, when you
that's separate
connect,
from emotional intimacy.
yes, yeah.
Intellectual meaning, let's grow and learn together something new, or intellectual, let's have a stimulating conversation.
For some people, a stimulating conversation is very important.
Mhm.
You know
I
what
know
I'm
for me
saying?
it is.
I
For
know
me,
for
it
me it
totally
is too.
is. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I have
Yeah.
to be able to go deep with the person. Other than
Oh
that,
yeah.
yeah, yes, yeah.
But in
So
this case though, wouldn't it also be like attracts like though? Because what if there's somebody that doesn't go deep, and if their partner doesn't go deep, then they're a better match, right? Rather than someone that knows how to go deep and someone that doesn't know how to go deep.
so sometimes when you don't, those critical things that you value, when you
Okay.
don't have that, and let's say you're hot in passion, you see this cute guy. When I was younger, yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, he's so cute, and I'm ready, and all that. Yeah, but then once I was with this person, then I'm like, oh my gosh, he can't do this. He can't talk about this. I don't care what kind of sexy body you have. I'm not even turned on anymore.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I've had those experiences. I'm like, what in the world? But I thought Jessica Rabbit. Never mind. You know.
Yes, and I know that
Right.
sounds bad, but I mean, yeah.
No, I mean,
But
it sounds bad, but yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's what you value. You tell me each of us are different.
So in this case, it's really your own personal core values that would make an intellectually stimulating conversation.
Right, right, right. When you talk about different types of intimacies, like some people, let's say activities intimacy, they have to be on the go doing things fun and exciting. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
you put them in a room with your partner, with a, not your partner, but with a person. All they're doing
Yeah,
is
not
watching,
mine.
and all they're doing watching Netflix. You know, they just
Right.
may have a hard time getting aroused.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What about what about I'm thinking right now as we're talking about, I'm thinking about the different types of intimacy. What about like exercising together, or like a type of like health intimacy?
Yes. Yeah. Because that's all. That's the activities intimacy, doing things
Mhm,
together.
mhm.
You know. Yes. Now I do want to say as a caveat. Okay.
Okay.
I need to say this
All
because
right.
there may be some millennials listening.
Oh, I'm
You do,
sure I know there are.
you do not have to do everything with your partner. Okay. All right.
Mhm.
If you're like, oh my gosh, we do everything together. We work side by side because we're home together. We, do every activity. And then you're coming to see me and you're like, why isn't it not working?
Mhm,
I'm going to tell you, it's because you're so like this
mhm.
that there is no air.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, you two have just combined to complete one. There's no uniqueness of either one of you. And it's very codependent. But when you have no air, you can't
Right.
have fire and have passion.
How does one get air?
So when you get air, even if you're working, like both working from home, you go and you have some friends, and that person has some friends, you may take
Yeah.
an art class, you may take a, I don't know, sushi class or something. Yeah. And then you come back together and you talk about your different experience. Don't go just like this because it'll destroy everything. Just want to put that caveat there.
So what if somebody says like, okay, well, I want to start to learn how to make sushi, and she wants to learn how to paint, and then we talk about it, and they're like, well, I also want to learn how to make sushi, and I also want to learn how to paint. Doesn't that become codependent though? So how do you?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, then you find something else. You do need, it's okay to have some alone time.
Mhm. Yes, I agree with that. Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And the other caveat that I need to also state out there, with alone time or just overall, it's really okay to know your body, your own body. Don't go into a relationship and think it's your partner's job to understand how you should have an orgasm, how you should do this, how you
yeah,
should do that. Yeah, yeah. I not so much in the men's side, but sometimes in the women's side, they're like, my partner should know how to make me have an orgasm.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
I've heard that before. I've heard it.
yeah, guess what, people? Not all vaginas are the same. It's like
Okay.
not all penises are the same.
Right. They're all different. Exactly.
Yes, but some women don't know that. They don't even know what theirs look like.
Oh my goodness, I know that's so true. So how can somebody improve intimacy with themselves? So okay, before I ask that question, does somebody or would you advise one of your clients or your patients that they spend more time with themselves? Let's say somebody's single. Should they spend time being intimate with themselves physically and all these other ways before they actually go out and pursue intimacy with somebody else?
It is good to, if you're carrying a lot of baggage, to heal so you're not triggered so much. But yes, it is good to spend some time with yourself,
Okay.
um, and to explore your body,
Mhm.
how comfortable you feel on that aspect. But that's really important because it helps you be able to talk and teach your next partner. And the second thing you said, it's great to live your life as if you have a partner there, because the momentum is there already versus you. I'm just going to use a reference, but versus you sitting on the couch, waiting,
Mhm.
waiting. This person comes up, and now you've got to start this momentum.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you may find, if you start doing things, you find someone who likes doing the same things you like to do.
Right. Totally.
Mhm.
Hey, speaking of millennials, millennials. So, and okay, so I'm pretty aware that I'm aware that I'm not gonna just say millennials, but there seems to I notice that there's a lot of women that don't like to experiment with themselves, like intimately, physically. How do you work with these type of women? And I know that a lot of it can be because of trauma or abuse and stuff like that. Like, how does somebody with those type of traumas or triggers, how do they work with themselves and be okay with touching themselves without feeling
So,
shame?
right, we go back to the core of, where did you learn that message from? And sometimes it's from church, or sometimes it's from a parent, or sometimes no one ever said anything,
Hmm.
you know? And then realizing, do you truly believe in that aspect? I mean, because you touch other parts, you touch your feet, you touch all those other parts of your body, but certain parts you're like, I'm just not. I've known women who have not even looked at their self naked.
Yes, I've heard of this. I've heard of this a
Yes,
lot
yes, yes.
actually, and it was shocking to me. But it's more often than not.
Right. And when you like totally are like disgusted with your body, you also have to think that that's the body God gave you,
I love
you
that.
know, and you
I
need
gotta
to
write
really,
that down. That's the body
yes,
God
yes,
gave you. Oh
God
my
gave you.
goodness, that's powerful, Dr. Brown.
Yeah. And to see yourself as God sees you, you
Right.
know? Right. Even if one breast is larger than another, love that breast. That is your
Absolutely.
body, because in all honesty, you only get one body. I mean, I'm 50 now. Yeah, you only get one body. You're not going to get another body. So, I know you can add parts and all this, but you've got to be able to be comfortable with it, And
Right.
like, in a variety of different circumstances, if you have to explore it to know if you really feel comfortable in it. And then
Mhm.
if you really, if explore and you say, I don't feel comfortable, then there's other changes to make. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Yes,
But you have to
absolutely.
explore first.
Yeah.
Does that make
That
sense?
can, yeah, for me it makes sense. I know it's so tough. This is one of the toughest things for a lot of people.
Yeah. And they expect that when they are engaged or get married or whatever, this person, mostly a man, is supposed to tell them how they, supposed to know. You should know how this. And for many women, you cannot, for many women, some women cannot have a full orgasm through regular penetration.
Hmm.
And they're upset with their partner, they're upset with this or that.
Yeah, or they think something's wrong with them.
Right. But if they had kind of played with their body, they would have realized, because besides our vaginas don't look the same, they're all not shaped the same.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. They would have realized what kind of, position or what's this or that, or maybe it's clitoral.
True.
Like, yeah.
Do you also recommend like men and women, or any, however people identify their genders, would you recommend them using toys, bringing toys into the
Of
picture,
course.
or would you first recommend like sensate focus before bringing toys, or bring in toys with the sensate focus?
Maybe the sensei focus first, just to see if you're not triggered by anything, but then bring in the toys. Yeah. I know I just spent a lot on women. The difference with men is sometimes many young boys, since their parts are out, they've explored their body.
Yeah, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, because it's already out. Yeah.
Yeah.
They even name it. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And they could, like, if it's lined up, they could pick it out. And some men are comfortable saying, you know what, I like it this way. I don't like it touched this way. They're very much more because they have explored their body.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they're less likely to need toys?
No, I'm just saying that they feel more comfortable than someone who has not explored their body.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that makes sense why I feel that from my experience, it's been women that have this difficulty more than men as far as like knowing what they like and what they want.
Right. Yeah,
That makes
that's just
sense.
that reference there. Yes, yeah.
That totally
And
makes
so,
sense.
yeah, so just like you say to someone, I don't like cheese on this, on a hamburger, wouldn't you be good? I mean, that's just food.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if you could say, yeah, I don't like, I don't know, teeth in my nipples. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it would cut down a lot of confusion. Yeah, because sometimes when the sex isn't all that good, people take it very personally. What am I doing wrong?
Oh yeah.
And they don't want to talk about it. Oh my gosh, we cannot talk about this. And it becomes the elephant in the room. And then when it becomes the elephant in the room and you're in bed with the person, then you have this little thing here, your conscious mind or something telling you, are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? What are you doing? All this. And that destroys intimacy.
Dr. Brown, what about people that go through like physical change? Let's say somebody gains 20 pounds and now they're not feeling attractive and now they don't want to have sex at all. Or they're having issues with their health, or the blood pressure is too high, or it's too low, or their sugar or something, or some medication is called they're getting erectile dysfunction, or women are, post menopause and now they can't get wet. Like, how do you work through that? That seems to be probably one of the most common things that I hear as well.
Right, definitely. Well, number one, I do hope that in these relationships, they weren't just based on sex.
Yes, I like that.
That's number one. Okay. Number
like
two, yes. In our mind, if we're stimulated, we can even have orgasms without anyone touching us.
Yeah, mental orgasms.
Yes. And you can have that with your partner without even being touched. So let's say for reasons of, health or whatever, that you guys can't really have the physical sex.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many other ways of getting your needs met. But you got
to. What you mean by that? You mean like there's an actual like the release in the brain, the endorphins, the dopamine, the oxytocin, like you get the same type of release neurochemically?
Yes, you can. Yes.
If you give an example on how that can happen?
If you both are fully present, and whether you are touching or not touching, and you both maybe, let's say, even shared a story together, like a fantasy, and you both go, yes, and you both go there and you add things into it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Wow, how things can happen.
Almost like a meditative experience.
Exactly.
That makes sense. As you're saying this, I'm like, well, how else have I had wet dreams if I'm not being physically touched? I mean, if it's happening in my dream, then that totally makes sense.
Yes.
Because women have orgasmic dreams too, yes?
Yes, they do. Yes.
It's not just a dude thing.
You're right. And sometimes we've had orgasms, that have happened in the day. Yeah. just based on what we're thinking or something. Yeah. So it does happen.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Hmm. Yeah, but you got to be able to communicate. And you got to be able to talk with your partner, especially if like you're going through menopause or you're going through ED or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Yeah, because if you don't talk about it, then it becomes worse. There are also a lot of some good medications, some not so good, but there are also different toys that help.
Different toys that help for ED.
For ED,
Hmm.
yeah, or even for toys that help people who have lost their desire or whatever. There are different toys, yes.
Okay, wow. You mean like vibrators, or what do you mean by that?
Vibrators, there's pumps,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that help. Yeah, there's different things that can be used.
Because I've heard some couples say that, with their husband or the boyfriend, like the vasodilators are not even helping. And I'm like, wow, like I listen to them, but I really don't know how to even that's why I need to direct them to you, Dr. Brown. You know?
So what happens is if you go and you can masturbate and you have no problem masturbating,
Mhm.
okay, then there's an issue with you and your partner.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
You know, it's because sometimes men have come and they're like, or even women have come and says, for some reason, such and such, I can't get an erection, I can't do this. But then when I ask them about their masturbation, oh, that's fine.
And right away you're like, ding, ding, ding. Okay. Now,
Yeah,
now
yeah,
you know
yes,
which direction to go.
yes, yes. Now, on the flip side, if let's say you're like, I'm just struggling, I cannot even hold erection and I'm masturbating, then it may be something biological that's going on, whether it's high blood pressure or medication or whatever the case may be. Yeah, or
For women, I
hormone.
mean, I'm a trans man for people that are listening, and I had a complete hysterectomy. Now I'm on these, I have to do these asteroidal um inserts, because I've got
Right,
dryness and I get itchiness. And sorry if it's TMI listeners, but this is the reality. This is the true real world. And this is not only
yes,
happening to trans men, but also biological females going through it. And
right,
then I wonder, like, because I mean, sometimes it's, there'll be some pain down there. And I'm like, oh man, well, how do women go through, are able to be intimate when they're going through this dryness, this pain, this bleeding, this breakthrough bleeding, even after a hysterectomy? Like, how do you actually work through that? But I guess you
right,
could do it different ways, as you were saying, like actually through like that type of like a meditative
right, right,
experience.
right. I know a lot of them use pelvic floor therapists, and which is very helpful. And pelvic floor therapists and even sex therapists, we sometimes recommend those dilators, which are very helpful. But when I recommend a dilator, I don't like to recommend it as you use it as a clinical aspect.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You need to use it as you're having fun. So dilators are little things that come in different sizes that helps open up basically the vagina. But
And
they
they kind
start
of
up.
they stay inserted for a few days or a few hours, or how do those
Oh,
work?
no, you can take it out. You can move it in and out. It's
Hmm.
good to do it self pleasure. But if you do it in such a clinical aspect, even if you're self pleasuring
Hmm.
and say, this is what the doctor told me to do, I'm going to push it in there for, count 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hmm.
Yeah. You're not
Yeah.
going to get aroused.
Yeah.
It's still going to hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus putting on some music, using some lavender, putting on some
Oh,
smells, maybe
using
kissing
all
your
the other
husband.
senses to awaken you up.
Yeah, yeah. Don't just take those things and be like you're in the doctor's office.
Right. Right. Got it.
Yeah.
And what about women that are going physically through, like the women that have had children, they're having issues with leaking, urine or prolapsed bladder. And I mean, how do you work through intimacy with women going through those type of things?
Right. So it depends. Some people truly cannot have like they can
Intercourse?
maybe maybe there's clitoris can only be stimulated and that's it.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? So as a couple, they have to talk about what that means. Because maybe
Right.
for their husband, that's like, well, that's just not satisfying to me, you
Hmm.
know? Are
Yeah.
we incorporating all sex? Are we doing other kind of things? And there's, 50 other toys you can put on top of your vagina to make it feel XYZ. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yes. But these things you have to kind of talk about it.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And if it's a situation where you cannot perform like a normal person, and whatever that means, it's okay. It does not mean that you're not a woman, not a man, not whatever you identify as. It is okay. Don't beat yourself up.
Right. Right. That's so true.
Yeah, yeah. It's like some people have to put on glasses and others don't.
Hmm. Yeah.
So there's a variety of different toys out there you can use. Yeah. And the toy may be just like glasses are
Right.
to help you.
Something you mentioned right now, oral sex. I find that when I know couples have been together for a while, I've had a lot of the dudes like talk to me and be like, yeah, like my wife, she won't go down on me anymore. Or I hear them saying like, that's all he wants, So it's like, how do people work through that when what if that's something they really prefer and their partner's like tired of doing that? Like how do you work around that?
So, and it's sometimes people don't even talk about it.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
personally, I don't really feel comfortable telling my partner, hey, will I don't feel comfortable asking for that. So it's like, how does someone get comfortable with that? And how does somebody break being overly comfortable with that and making their partner uncomfortable about it?
Okay. So one quick way of talking about things like that, maybe uncomfortable, is look at it as a menu.
Hey, what? I'm sorry?
I like a menu, a tasting menu.
Oh,
So
wow, okay.
yeah, I help couples say, what is the ambiance? Like you're in a restaurant. What is
Yeah.
the ambiance that you like?
Mhm.
And they write it all down. That means the lights on, off, lingerie, smells, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Then I have them write down the appetizers.
Oh, wow.
And so for some people that is all sex, and for others it's
Yeah.
dinner. Yes, yes. And then in that discussion, let's say we're talking about oral sex as an appetizer. Yeah, what was it that you like and what was it that you don't like? Like sometimes females like, no, I'm okay if he's sitting on the bed and I'm doing it that way, and maybe I'm kneeling, but I just cannot stand if it's just like all down in my throat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's having those conversations.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
many
get down with
times,
the details.
yeah, many times women don't. They're just like, don't, or even men, yeah. But what was it that you liked and what was it that you didn't like?
Hmm.
Having that conversation, it's very helpful in that
Yeah.
aspect. Also, there are also other, a good friend of mine, Mala, she does Velvet Lips. I don't know if you've had her on the show yet, but
I
what she
haven't.
does
That's interesting.
and what other people in her field do is they teach people how to have blowjobs or how to do a blowjob.
Oh, wow.
So
Well,
yeah,
I've never
yes,
heard of that.
yes, yes. So there's plenty of therapists or different type of workers out there that will teach you. Yeah, yeah. So maybe
Wow.
you two sign up for a class about blowjobs.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
That's
saying? So
interesting.
yeah, with that can help. So going back to my other thing, just to finish it, it's the ambiance, appetizer,
Mhm.
dinner is the sexual thing, and then dessert. What do you like after? Whether you like to
Wow.
sleep, take a shower, watch a movie, eat chocolate, whatever.
I think it'd be pretty interesting to have something sweet afterwards, just to complete all the senses, the entire pellet. That's not
Yes,
the cake.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And some couples who've been together for so long, they've had sex, but they don't kiss anymore. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah. But when you use your lips and your tongue, like you said, that increases your senses.
What about adding food or desserts while you're being intimate?
Yes, that is
Really?
wonderful.
I gotta say,
Yeah.
it's a fantasy I haven't tried yet. Like, actually have like a piece of chocolate in my mouth while I'm.
While you're kissing or while
I've
you're
thought about that. Yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's something
Wow.
to have a discussion, because some people may be allergic to stuff. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't want
So,
to pull out the Hershey's chocolate and just start. What are you doing? Oh, I should have asked you. Right.
yeah.
Dr. Brown, something else I was curious right now while we're talking about this. What about people that are have like end up getting like a sexual addiction? How do you actually tone that down?
So it depends what they define as an addiction.
Let's say they need to have it twice, two, three times a day with their partner.
Okay. Okay. And so sometimes they would like to have it and they need it and they feel it. And but they haven't done anything, how can I put it? They haven't been at work and tried to do something crazy or whatever the case may be. So it may not be a full-blown addiction.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, actually that was going to be part of the addiction question I was going to ask, but I first wanted to know, how does one work through that
So
with their one-on-one partner, and then how does one work through that when they're with the partner and then seeking sex somewhere else through
right. So if it's an addiction, it is because it has caused disturbance in some part of your life. Like maybe you can't even get to do your daily routine because that is what's thing, you know?
controlling your life.
Yeah, it's like completely controlling your life.
Hmm.
That's really like a sex addiction. And with any type of addiction, at first you have to realize you have one.
True.
Yeah. An addiction in many cases, sometimes not in many, but in some cases, it's a genetic disposition. Like
Oh,
maybe,
wow. Even with
yeah,
sex, huh?
yeah, because it's only one part of the brain that deals
That's
with
true.
addiction.
That's
And
true.
it
It's all
doesn't really,
neurochemically. Yeah, you're releasing the same
yes, yes.
chemicals.
Yeah. So it doesn't say, oh my gosh, I think you're gonna should be for sex, so you're gonna be for alcohol. It's just one part. Yeah. Yeah. You just may be doing it sexually versus someone else.
That makes sense. Yes.
Yes. So it's recognizing the behavior, seeing the patterns, and there's many different resources out there that can help people with sex addiction. And there are medications that help stop that impulse.
Interesting. That's awesome. That
Yeah.
totally makes sense. So what about when somebody's in a relationship and they want it a lot with their partner and not other people? Like, how do you actually tell them to chill out?
Right. Kind of also, besides that one thing I also said earlier about the menu, but having that discussion of how often do you feel like we should be having sex?
Mhm.
Okay. Some people, when they're stressed, they
Oh,
want
yeah.
more sex. It's like,
Oh, wow.
they're what we call accelerators.
I
You know
thought
what
you
I'm
were going
saying?
to say the opposite. So when they're stressed, they want it more.
Right. They're accelerators. Others may be breakers. Like when I'm stressed, I'm not in a breaker, I'm more of an accelerator. But for others, when they're breakers, they're like, do not touch me. I just want to be left alone. But then your partner, when they're stressed, they want more intimacy.
Wow. I didn't know
Yes.
that.
Those are things you got to learn. You learn over time, you got to talk about.
Mhm.
And if you realize, oh, my partner's stressed, that's why they keep asking me for sex right now, and I'm like totally don't want to be touched. What can we do? How can
Yes.
we bridge this gap?
What do you tell them?
So it's a discussion between those two. So in couples counseling and intimacy
Mhm.
counseling and all that, my job is to help them see each other.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, because what's ready for one couple may not be good for another couple.
Mhm.
So some couples can be like, well, if my partner really needs this release, he's just so stressed, he's got a big job, I'm okay giving him a blowjob.
Mhm.
I'm okay having him release, and I don't have to release because yeah. Others,
Wow.
well, maybe we can just take a shower together,
Mhm.
and help that, you know, stimulates or whatever. Yeah. But it's a conversation you need to have.
That's beautiful. That's really a sweet way to think of it. To
Yes.
think of it and to act upon. I like that.
Right. Right. Definitely. Yeah.
So what about man, these conversations are incredible. Thank you so much for being open and talking so freely about this. I really appreciate your knowledge and your wisdom in this. What's your biggest challenge that you find that you get with couples with intimacy? What's the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge is kind of what we just been talking about. They don't talk about it.
So it's all communication, which is the first thing you brought up when we first started talking, actually. Communication is
Yes,
of
it's the
intimacy.
communication and it's that emotional piece.
Okay.
Yes. And sometimes people sign up for sex therapy, but it turns out that they have issues outside of the bedroom. So if you have
Right.
issues outside of the bedroom, and
Sure.
I should also say you can have sex at a lot of different places, okay?
Mhm.
Besides the bedroom, yes, don't just have sex in the bedroom. But if you have other issues, it is going to impact.
Sure. Totally.
Yeah, yeah. If you feel like that's all he wants from me is sex, then there's a problem there.
Right.
You know, it's not just a penis and a vagina problem.
Right.
You know, there's some issues going up there, and there's some trust issues. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So thank you for that. So one more thing I wanted to ask earlier, we were talking about couples that no longer kiss. Like, how do they start to kiss again? And I can see that as you're saying that, I can actually envision, I can see like couples being like, nah, 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 nah. So how do you actually how do they get okay with kissing again?
Yeah, they tell me, oh yeah, we kiss before we go to work, and it's this peck here. And so I challenge them to really do every day, like almost a 2 minute, really involve hugging and kissing.
I like that because you're not overly pushing it. 2 minutes is really it's doable. Like just
Yes,
take a
yes,
deep
yeah,
breath and
yes, yeah,
that fires things up actually when you start doing that.
yes, yeah, definitely. Instead of just the peck here and there, you know,
Uh-huh.
because men and women want to feel desirable.
Right.
If a man doesn't feel desirable, many women think that he still wants sex, but no, and men can feel if you're not into it. I tell women to stop faking it. Just stop.
Oh yeah. Yeah, stop faking it.
Yes, it's making the situation worse.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. It does make it worse. And then
Yeah,
resentment starts to build up at that point
you're
too.
right, exactly.
What about kids? What about couples with kids? How does one make time for intimacy if they start to get so tired and exhausted with doing stuff for the kids? Things are about the kids, and then the nighttime comes and somebody's too tired, or how does one start to incorporate time for themselves and not just the life be all about the kids?
Right. Well, I do talk with each person about how do you save energy for your partner.
How do you
'Cause
save energy?
save energy. Yeah, we only have so much energy like in a day. But sometimes we give it all to our job, or we save maybe a little bit for the kids at home at night, and then we're depleted.
Mm.
And if you have no energy, there's no way any of this is going to happen. So for some people who work for other people,
Yeah.
it's not even their own company. They're
Yeah.
giving 600%. You know what I'm saying? They're running around like crazy, getting paid the same amount, but you have to learn how to slow it down,
Mhm.
you know? Also, how to plan, maybe
Mm.
plan date nights. Also, learning how to have other support system so they can babysit while you guys
Oh,
go out,
gotcha.
spend time with,
Yeah.
other people. Yeah. Or spend time together as a couple, you
Mhm.
know? Some people are afraid of sounds. Well, if their kids were here, there's sound machines that you can utilize. You know what I'm
Or
saying?
music.
Or music, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because what you don't want is your kids to grow up and then you guys aren't connected and then you start more because it's so unhealthy for the kids, you know?
Mhm.
Or that the kids leave and then you guys have nothing.
Oof. Right.
Yeah. So you just lost your kid to college or being married or whatever. And now you lose your partner.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's avoid all that.
Yeah, let's definitely avoid all that.
Yes.
Doc- Dr. Brown, this has been amazing. I have a question for you. If you can go back to a time where you were struggling with intimacy, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself back then if you could take a time machine?
I would tell myself, number one, not to criticize my own body.
I like that.
Yes, yes, yeah. Because sometimes back then, especially when I was younger, it's about criticizing your body. It's not this, not this. For you to be truly intimate, you have to feel sexy.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I didn't, yeah, like I said, grew up a
I have
certain
to
way.
write that
I,
down.
I,
Yeah.
I hadn't explored. So I felt ashamed for exploring. Like that was something a no. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not supposed to touch your body.
Don't be
Yeah.
ashamed to explore.
Don't be ashamed to explore. Yes. And realize that your body is beautiful.
Right.
Right. Because I even noticed that when you compliment your body and say nice things to it, guess what? It works for you. It will start to, let's say if you're wanting to lose weight, it will start to let the weight come off. But if
Start
you
to
say,
accelerate that process.
yeah, if you say nasty things to it and you want that body to lose weight, it's like, F you, why am I going to listen to you?
Yeah. Right. That totally makes sense. That's awesome. Right now, as you said that, I was thinking, because I'm a little dude, you know, and there's sometimes where I'm like working out and I'm listening to LMFAO, I'm sexy and I know it. And I'm like, hey,
Yes.
I'm feeling sexy, even though
Yes.
I might not compare to others, but I'm feeling sexy right now. I got it. Yeah, I get the pump on. That's awesome, Dr. Brown.
Yes, definitely.
Dr. Brown, tell us about your podcast. How can our viewers or watchers and our listeners listen to your podcast and find you if they need to get a hold of you?
Okay, so I have a podcast called Bringing Intimacy Back, which you can find on YouTube, Spotify, and we do it live every Thursday at 3 p.m.
Live.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
live.
Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. So that's one way. You can also just go find my name and go to my website, www.draprilbrown.com. I have about 7 books on intimacy.
Wow,
Of course,
awesome. That's excellent.
you know, traditional intimacy counseling like everybody else, but we also have intimacy experience on another website called Vacation Counseling. So if you and your partner is like, oh my gosh, we don't just want to talk, we want to do, check out our retreats.
I love that. Dr. April Brown, everybody, on A Little Less Fear podcast, an incredible intimacy expert, improving the relationships through intimacy and all different types and forms of intimacy. Check her out, Bringing Intimacy Back podcast. Check out her website. Dr. April Brown, what a blessing and what an incredible alignment we are. I'm really blessed to have met you. Happy 2023 to you and all of your loved ones.
Yes, happy 2023 to you too. And thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.